What's up, guys? We are back with From the Wing. We have a lot of Zion Williamson things to talk about, and we have some Trey Murphy things to talk about, and we have some suspension things to talk about and not talk about. And Steve Jones is here to talk about it all with me and shoot it, kick stuff around, figure out like, does this tank work? Is this tank going to work, or am I learning con Newple, buddy? Steve, how's it going?
I'm all right, doing okay, fighting the sniffles. But I think what's funny is I told you, the Pelicans aren't as bad as it looks. And look at the smile you have right now as we start to record. You're glowing, and I find that to be funny for me particularly.
I've been glowing for a few episodes. I have a light behind me. I've been glowing. I've been glowing as if I am a character on The Last Dragon for those who are appreciators of Bruce Leroy. Which I mean, I am. I'm actually a bigger fan of Show Nuff, but anyway. So the Pelicans played the Boston Celtics and the Chicago Bulls since we last chatted. And we have seen finally in game 40 and 41, we have seen what the core by design is supposed to look like. We are seeing Zion Williamson plus Trey Murphy plus Dejounte Murray. No Herb because, somewhere somebody committed some sin that God is going to punish us for eternally. And we'll figure out one day. We'll figure out what that is. I'm gonna get to the bottom of that. I'm gonna find out who did it. Like, is it just Mardi Gras in general? Does it track back to George Shinn? Is it the Charlotte Hornets? Did they do it? Like, somebody did something here. But DJM, Trey, Zion against the Celtics and then the Bulls, it looks really, really good. And like, if it would have been playing from game 1, 2, and 3, like, this would be a very different Pelicans season where Javonte and everybody on that bench makes sense. Granted, you also have to weigh in there that Yves Missy doesn't get as much time to develop. You probably don't find a Brandon Boston. And those two things are, your couple of silver linings from the beginning. But what do you take from, let's start with the Celtics game. What did you think of what you saw? What was the highlight of what you saw? Do you feel like they really went toe-to-toe with the NBA champions, or do you feel like Boston kind of played into them a little bit?
No, I thought that was a proof of concept game for the Pelicans. I thought you can now understand what they can do, what they're working on doing, how good they could be, kind of something we talked about before. You kind of want to know, is there still something in here? And a game like that will let you know that. I thought the way they were driving against the Celtics was important. I thought the way they were flying around on defense was important against Boston. So that's where it gave you hope, because those were things that you weren't seeing consistently from the Pelicans. And Boston's not an easy matchup. Now, did they play a little bit slower? Yes. But the Pelicans were willing to switch almost anyone on anyone. Zion was able to keep the puppies in front. I think wide pin down for Jaylen Brown. He's there on the catch. He gets a steal. Like, they were fighting in that game. Like, they were excited and amped for that game. And they were executing in the half court in that game. So I think that's probably the plus for me, where it's like they had a confidence and swagger about them that they hadn't had for most of the season.
Zion felt like he gave Jaylen Brown hell. Jaylen Brown was still like playing. He didn't play poorly in that game. Like, he was still like, I thought he athletically, like, there are just sequences where you just like learn to respect Jaylen Brown a little bit more. It's like a weird career arc for him where he's the second fiddle guy. He was the pick that wasn't really supposed to be the big time dude. And then there's questions like, can he be the Jason Tatum running mate? And like, now after the playoff run last year and everything, the questions are like, well, the roster's so good that should we really give Jaylen Brown this much credit? Or is he just taking open shots and, playing an easier role than he should be? I'd see his athleticism pops all the time. His fluidity pops all the time. And his skills are so much better. Like, we used to joke about him not being able to go one direction at all. Like, using his left hand at all was like a running gag. And now, like, look, Zion still dares him. Like, you put that ball in that hand, I'm going to blitz you, and it's going to turn into 3 steals. Cool. So it's still a little bit of a problem. But I thought we saw more of the Zion active on defense thing. And that's the thing. Like, the offense looks solid enough too. it's the activity on defense that's like making me go, oh no, the tank. The tank is screwed. Because if he's going to like that in the games that he's out there, like they're going to beat some good teams. They're not just going to beat some bad teams. Like they're going to accidentally have like the wins we've talked about, those frustrating ones, those frustrating wins that you don't want to have are going to happen. So yeah, Boston Celtics game is really, really fun, and they lose a squeaker right at the end. Very, very curious what you think. Like a very, very typical final play of the game where my entire timeline loses their mind that CJ McCollum is the person that's taking the shot, but he's taking it at the rim. So I'm very happy with what happened. But everybody's like, well, Porzingis isn't on the floor, and this is a decent gripe. Porzingis isn't on the floor. Should that be for Zion no matter what?
Are they really complaining when CJ McCollum crossed Drew Holiday like that?
Yeah, they were. There's a lot of still a lot of negative sentiment around here because of how the season's gone. And basically, if it's not Zion or Trey, like most of the very, very online Pelicans fans are usually like at least momentarily upset. They might get over it by the next day. But yeah.
Honestly, the bad luck was beforehand. It was the 3 possessions before where Dejounte was hunting the elbow. You had that sequence where what was a turnover or a miss you didn't get back, and then they scored.
Yeah.
Like you had chances to win. I thought CJ crossed the hell out of Drew, in my opinion.
We gave up a couple layups. We gave up a couple bad layups where like we couldn't get back. I think Tatum was one of them. So yeah, like you said, the collapse was right before that. But that was the most fun game that we've gotten to watch, even though we lost. And then the Bulls game, move into that. We get to see the triumvirate again, as I guess I'm gonna keep using that word because it's what keeps coming to my mind. And a lot of the same. The defensive rotation and the very, very fun steals and jabs and blitzes, like just hounding guys. Chicago's like a little bit unserious. They're very, very, they're one of those teams that like can have a fun offensive night and beat anybody if they just like make a ton of shots. And Kobe White's gotten way better. Cool to see Lonzo Ball be like an NBA player again. And he's playing like a little bit more of a reserved role, like just trying to contribute with rebounds and steals. And if there's an open shot, he'll take it, but he's a little less aggressive than he has been. But like, you know, Vooch gets his arm wrapped around CJ and like throws himself on the ground. A lot of that going on. Gets CJ a flagrant one, as if CJ threw a guy as big as Vucevic on the floor. Like that's a thing. Do you think that's a thing?
Kind of.
So we saw it again. The 3 works. Zion has probably his best passing game so far this season. Zion looks incredible. Trey looks incredible off of him. Trey has a bad shooting night from 3, still gets the 30 points. So like probably scores 40 if he has even an average shooting night from distance. What are we looking at here? Are we talking like, is Trey a guy? Like, is he already better than his contract?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing for Trey Murphy, the reason why he can have a night like that when the shot's not falling automatically is because of the work he's put in with the drives, with the cuts, with the intent to drive. Even the ones where he tries to turn the corner so hard and he falls down, you like that mindset where he's trying to get into the paint with the intent. And now you see sprinkled in a couple times over these last 2 games, drive, I see help, I kick. And so, okay, that's fun because Trey Murphy's going to get in the paint and score and also be able to open a little bit of playmaking. That's ideal. I thought the biggest one for me was Zion in this game and the way that he worked in the post, the way that he kind of automatically made the passes he had to, whether he was driving, whether they were putting him in pick and roll and guards were switching. The post-ups, the rescreens that you're doubling, I'm going to pass, I'm going to fight through the middle, I'm going to skip it. I thought he was really automatic in the Bulls game, and that's a really good sign because if he's sealing, he's getting deep touches, he knows the plays to make, that opens a lot up for New Orleans.
Yeah, you highlighted some of them on the timeline. I was very it's exciting when the season gets good enough to draw your attention, like at least like the gameplay gets good enough that there's something to highlight. And it's something to highlight that we should value into the future and not just like a blip on the radar that's not going to matter next year. Zion's like the effort level from Zion is visible. It's visible on like you said, he has that he runs from the baseline, gets that deep seal, ball over the top, goes back up because he has that, as everybody has documented, the lightning fast second jump.
Yes.
And he gets an easy layup out of that post touch because he's got a small on him. And at the same time, like I'm watching some plays that had good results, and I'm still seeing some stuff where I'm like, ooh, what the heck? Like Daniel Tice gets, I think, Zach LaVine and has him on his back about 6 or 7 feet away from the basket. When he gets that switch and it's Zach instead of one of the centers, I'm like, Tice, come on, guy. Like, go to town. Like, get fouled, go to the rim. But he doesn't have any of that. He wants to shoot the little shot put shot. And if that's not there, he's just not going to do anything. So he kicks it out to Dejounte, and Dejounte makes a 3. It's cool. It's good. But like, we were early in the clock. He had a mismatch on his back, and there's just like nothing he can do with it. But I guess I should be happy that he's like staying within himself. Maybe I shouldn't challenge him to be more because he's Daniel Tice.
How have you felt about the Daniel Tice return?
It's a lot better. This is a lot better. A lot of things make sense that didn't make sense before Zion and Dejounte were playing together. Daniel Tice makes a lot more sense. Guy that I have been rooting for from the beginning, Javonte Green, is now like typically the worst guy on the floor when he's playing. And for him, that means like you're pretty good. If he's your worst in the 5, then he gets to run around and do all the defensive Javonte things and the crazy hustle. I'm going to get down before everybody, leak out and get this friction filled layup where I get fouled. That's what Javonte does. And so when he doesn't have to do, the 3-point heaving and stuff that he's not so accustomed to, it all looks better. Everybody looks better. Zion makes everything better. The water is lifting the boats. The boats are going up.
Javonte Green cutting. I've enjoyed that. I also kind of want to salute Willie Green. I've enjoyed the lineup combinations he's thrown out there.
Talk to us.
Play these guards together. CJ, Jordan Hawkins play together. Jose, play. You can play. Trey, you play the 4. It doesn't matter about size. We're going to switch. We'll figure it out. I've liked that part of it. Just let him play. Let him hoop. And you kind of seen like the resurgence. I think the fourth quarter when you just have Dejounte and Jose just attacking and having that right mindset. So I want to give Willie Green credit. And he's been drawing up some pretty fun sets. You can tell, oh yeah, I do have my people back. I can kind of open things up for Trey Murphy and CJ. So I want to give Willie Green some credit.
Something we have not heard a lot this year from anybody is the famous Willie Green quote, got to give him credit. Got to give Willie credit. Look, it's cool to hear anybody speak positively about him because he's been getting dogged on since like middle of last year. And honestly, before that, I think he gets our fan base at least. And the conversation around our coverage is usually Willie's plays in late games are bad and he doesn't adapt quick enough and he's locked into all of his habits and he never changed anything. I think you just highlighted that like that's not what's happening right now. There's a core that he's trying to protect and get minutes out there for, and then everything else is like whatever's working that night. Whoever's showing me that they've got the effort level I want, whatever, we'll see. And that's without like, one of his little glue. I think this is part of the reason and also something that will make them a little more flexible. Guy I love to rag on, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. If he was available, I think he'd be in a lot more of those lineups and you wouldn't see as much of the 3-guard stuff. But because he's not available, you kind of have to go to that stuff. So when he's back, I think you'll see like a little bit more of this guy makes me comfortable in that he's going to run what I want him to run. He's going to be where I want him to be. And I can't really knock the hustle from Jeremiah this season. So I can't really complain about it, but
stick with the 3 guards. Let them hoop. Let them switch. Let them play. Get out and run.
What happens when they give up 140?
They were giving up 140 anyways.
Yeah, there he is. All right. All right. So just like quick highlight of the Trey plus Zion stuff. the slight little snippet that we finally got of those two together is it's pretty insane. It's kind of scary how good they immediately look, like everybody foretold. This is like us getting like a Bible passage or a scripture we found written on a stone tablet a long time ago, and the prophecy is coming true. Trey Murphy and Zion play really well together. Dejounte Murray is a completely different player across from Zion Williamson. While he does love to hunt that elbow, his general play for the first 90% of the game is a completely different shot diet and penetration rate and drive rate. Like, he's playing differently.
Hey, he's hunting that pull up three.
Yeah.
And in pick and roll with Zion, it's very funny. He kind of gets close to the elbow, and he's like, "Oh, Zion's rolling," and throws it to him. I'm like, "Hey, there's chemistry growing between these two." Continue.
So you highlighted it. One of the things that has completely morphed, the willingness to take that kick out three when it's coming from Zion versus when it's coming from anybody else when Zion wasn't playing. Very, very different thing. Like, completely different. Enough where you worried, based on what you saw, you're wondering, like, okay, maybe this is like Dejounte still got some problematic tendencies, and I don't know how it's going to look when the guys are here. No, it looks like Dejounte's always known how he needs to coexist with Zion. He knows where his bread is buttered. And as soon as Zion's out there, with Trey especially, that dude just knows what his role is supposed to be. And he's playing pretty well within it. And the shots are better. The decisiveness is better. And it like he's being the guy that like Trey Murphy's getting hugged up on. He's not quite getting doubled. Zion's on the strong side. Trey's out on the weak side wing. And there's a potential little lob kick out there. And right at the top of the key is Dejounte. And, his guy's sagging off of him to be the help on Trey. So if that kick out comes to Dejounte, he's got to rip it. Is he gonna? Yes. The answer through these two games is a resounding yes. And he's knocking him down. So all of a sudden, like, guy who couldn't make a shot looks pretty damn confident and looks like a different player. Trey's an efficiency monster. Zion's an efficiency monster, going 10 of 11 in 24 minutes. Trey has the 3-point shooting night that is like a bit of a struggle against the Bulls and still comes out with 30, probably scores 40 if he has a decent night. Yves Missi is fitting in with that, which I thought would have been like a little bit of a question. He's not a perfect fit, but he is like, he's still finding touches but it's like, it's coming off it's play Terminator stuff. It's not like stuff being run for Missi. I get that. I know. I see what's going on over there. I see you like, does he fit?
No, I'll circle back at the end. Don't worry about it.
No, talk to me about it now. What are you seeing? What do you see?
Rookie of the year, huh?
Hey, talk to me about Zach Edey. Yeah. You want to do that? You want to go there? Talk to me about Zach Edey's Rookie of the Year campaign. You know what this year is? A bad year for Rookie of the Year campaigns.
I don't know. I just had the field. So I will say this though. Do you like the mix? Because it's something I've been keeping an eye on the last couple of games. The mix from New Orleans on offense, as far as what are we running when, and when are we giving Zion a post up? When are we getting CJ off action? When is Dejounte going to come off the screen? I feel like there's a good blend for New Orleans, but they're still trying to figure it out because they haven't played together a bunch. Have you enjoyed that?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of I think you can see who doesn't have like the chemistry yet. Like, CJ is not just playing. Like, Dejounte and Zion clearly know where they need to be, and Trey has it's like those three play off each other pretty well, and there's some individual paired chemistry with each of those guys. I think what you see sometimes is like CJ is going to dribble the length of the court and get into his shot, or get a bit, just call a big out, get a screen, shoot over the top of it because he hasn't touched the ball in a couple of reps. I think you're kind of like, we're kind of wedging him in a little bit. We just kind of hinted at Yves Missi. He's just kind of playing cleanup when he's in there. And actually things have gone a little bit smoother, I'd say, with ball movement when Daniel Tice is in there, which is a little weird. But it's weird. The original design that I was like, yeah, this will work. It works. But now I'm excited about different things. And like I want to see Eve Misi continue to evolve. And it's going to take a little bit of a backseat until games like probably tonight against Dallas when guys rest. And then we get to see him, but at least we'll get to see him against like, a bunch of trees and for the Dallas Mavericks and see like what he's learned. But yeah, I think certain guys, like, it's just going to take time for chemistry to build, but I'm not mad about it. Like, the times that CJ chooses to cook like fit in the rhythm of when people are getting their shots. I don't feel like anybody's getting frozen out. So about as good as it could be, given that they've only played 2 games together.
It's one of my favorite things to track, because I'm seeing some of the sets that Willie had run before, and I'm like, oh, CJ's involved in these now, or Zion screening for Trey Murphy, or they're getting in the bag a little bit. But then what do they do after? That was a big issue for me with the Pelicans earlier in the season. But they're starting to feel better in the half court, at least trying to figure things out as they get deeper in the clock. But
yeah, we are not having the I have to run because I can't score in the half court. That's not happening with the half court offense as it's currently existing. And a lot of that has to do with Trey being a 3-level threat consistently and relocating for threes, as well as being willing to take it all the way to the glass and accept contact, get fouled. It is opening things up. Like, you have him and Zion to worry about that much athletically, and everybody else just gets to live off of that. Yeah, it's a lot better than what you were rolling out before. So yeah, I'm happy about what I'm seeing, and I'm also nervous for the tank. We'll talk about that next after I rip. A salute to my sponsor, Crescent 9 THC Seltzer, the #1 cannabis company in New Orleans, hemp-derived THC seltzers, the Crescent 9. I've been talking about it for quite a long time now. It is a feature of my life. You can scan the QR on the graphic right here to take you straight to the shop. We've talked to you about like some legality changes here after January 1st, dropping down to a bunch of 5 milligram offerings, but you still have the tropical flavor and the ginger lemonade, 2 of my favorites. I like 5 milligrams is good for me. Like, I have a job to do and a podcast to do, and like 5 is just like a nice rhythm for me. But my favorite flavor is still the sour watermelon. So, I'm gonna need that again. This is like, I sleep better. I've replaced the whiskey. I put the whiskey away a little bit, and I've got a ton of people close to me. Like, it would shock you. It would shock you the variety of people, moms, grandmas. I'm like a little caught off guard when they're like, "Hey, your podcast is sponsored by Crescent 9." I drink those. I'm like, you really? But like, yeah, grandma doesn't want to take Benadryl anymore at night to deal with her stuff before she goes to bed and get a decent sleep. Pops a Crescent 9 instead. Like, these are real stories, and if you need me to go get the testimonials, I'll run them out of here and put them on video. Go out to your stores, get your 5 milligram, get your ginger lemonade, get your tropical. Keep an eye out for flavor expansion, and maybe we'll get a little legal evolution here in the near term. But consult your doctor if you have heart condition or anything like that. You have any medical concerns before drinking a THC seltzer. Check with your physician and let me know what you think of it. Let me know what your favorite flavor is. Let me know if you need to see different kinds of merch from them, or maybe you need to see like a merger. Like, maybe we need to do like a hat or a shirt or something. I probably got to get some apparel. I got to rep them. I'm going to go to this Dallas game tonight. I got to rep the brand, right?
Yes.
All right, so we got to work on that. All right, let's talk about the tank. Let's talk about our large-beaked feathery tank. We've talked about this, and you hinted at this very early on, that the tanking is like the friends we made along the way. That the schedule is going to do some tanking for you. You'll have some rest opportunities to do some tanking. You'll get to the end of the year, and we might have like a 2-week shutdown. A lot of teams do that. You get to the final 2 weeks of the season, and there's like a nagging injury, and we're just going to close down shop for these final 7 games. A lot of teams are going to do that. But the Pelicans are not worse. When Zion Williamson plays, the Pelicans are not worse than 7, 8, 9 of the worst teams in the NBA. They are very competitive if Zion Williamson is playing basketball. So, is it time for me to learn about Con Newpel and VJ and accept my VJ Edgecombe fate, or is VJ Edgecombe too rich for my blood? Am I looking more middle of the board? Like, do you think the Pelicans have a real shot at being in the top end of the lottery, or do you think we need to adjust our expectations to say the 7th or 8th worst record in the draft?
I think it depends. Like, honestly, if you ask what happens with the 2 Utah games, that might change things. I don't think you're going to be worse than the 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. I don't think that you're going to climb as high because the schedule does get really tricky. You know, you got at Memphis, at Charlotte, at Toronto versus Dallas versus Boston, 2 games at Denver. Like, it gets ugly. So I don't know if I would say the tank is in trouble. I would just say you're probably going to be 5th or 6th.
Which, as of right now, if you were to hop over to Tankathon, I disagree with their board. I've already like kind of hinted at that. And their board's not a great, like, it's a fun visual and it's got like a solid assembly of stats, but I would not look at their mock draft board and be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. I am already convinced that, and I've hinted at this already, that Kasparis Yakachonis is going to go top 3 probably. I think there's going to be a lot of debate about him and Ace Bailey, and I think just the roundness of his game and the fact that he is going to be on ball all the time successfully is just going to make him feel more valuable than Ace. Maybe somebody falls in love with gigantic shooter and is like, I can fix him. Could be, because he's a huge shooter. But that would put us in Con Newpel, Derek Queen, Nolan Traore, Asa Newell type spaces. And so I can't tell you anything confidently about them yet because I haven't gotten that far. I remember being a little excited about Nolan Traore when he was playing for France. So I'm going to have to go, I'm going to have to check some stuff out and come back to you. I was ready on top 4 or 5. Now I feel like I need to be looking like 5-10. And I'm not thrilled about it. Maybe we'll jump. Maybe the lottery gods will bless us and turn this sin around and help us with this struggle of this season and give us a top 3 pick anyway because of these flattened odds.
I'm sorry you had to put the draft board away.
It's not away yet. So we live on a continuum where the draft board is like coming towards us at all times. Right now, like Zion came back and now the draft board, he pushed it away a little bit. It's like right here off screen. And if he just pushes us, if he goes away for like a week or so, then maybe it creeps a little closer. It might pop up and I might start asking you questions about Texas basketball. I don't know. Maybe, but not yet. Yeah, he has postponed us. So next question. As an NBA team, do you feel any urgency? Do you think teams feel urgency in a situation like ours where you can see visibly that the team is talented enough to win games they're not supposed to when the right guys are out there? Do you feel any urgency to make roster changes to make them less capable to win said games? Or is that a step too far? Because you're like right now, we're not looking at ransoms for players. The 2 players that you might get a ransom for are 2 guys that are not going anywhere. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are going nowhere anytime soon. But looking at an older player who's on the back, who's going to be on the final year of a contract next year, is there an urgency as a roster builder to change that? Or do you just run it out and run out the rest of the season and manage it within the schedule, manage it within the injuries that you feel, and just land where you land?
I think you manage it within. I mean, you can't play with it because you don't know what you're going to get back. And what's that going to do? If one person gets you 2 good players and you're better, then you messed up, So I don't know if you can necessarily think of it in a way that, okay, we're going to rush this trade so that we can now put ourselves in this position, because you can't control it that way. And you start playing with the basketball gods a little bit. So you have to kind of make the best deal. And again, like, I think if you're New Orleans, even if you're 8-32, let's see how much we have here with the opportunities we have down the stretch. if the lineup's rotating, if guys are in and out, let's see what the proof of concept is. How good is this combination between these two players, these three players? How good does that look? So that informs you what you might have to do in the offseason. Because truly, for me, I think the trade market is more open in the offseason. There's more teams that are more willing to, okay, let's make a change, or let's make a switch, or yeah, we'll take that deal than now. So I think some of the people that are on this team could help other teams, but what team is going to go do that right now? I don't know. So I think it's more so focusing on who you are, what you have. If something pops up, that's fantastic, but you kind of can't force it in that way.
So this is normally the part of the show where Steve gives the disclaimer that he's going to make Pelicans fans upset. He's telling you guys that you're not going to be top 3 in the draft. That's what he's telling you, and that you need to be okay with being 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, because your team's really good, and it just sucks that they didn't play this much. And there's going to be some more heartache down the road here with these close losses and wins that might frustrate you. So the full sellout for the tank, not the priority. And I agree with you.
Well, I will make you more mad. 4 of your next 6 games, 2 against Utah, 1 at Charlotte, 1 at Toronto. You win all those, where you at?
Destructive territory for the tank is where we're at. The protective plates are falling off. The tank tread is on the ground, and we're spinning in a circle because one side of the tank doesn't move. All right. Wait, look, I'm content to accept that. If this is the Zion that I get, if this is the Zion, Dejounte, Trey mix that I get, and I get to put Herb with this, and I move towards adding a more competent center next year to play alongside Misi and eat up that role of those top 2 centers, I'm going to feel good about that no matter what that is. And, you know, if I go back and look at Bryson's recent history and drafts, I feel pretty good about them picking in the middle picks. The Pelicans have been pretty good at finding guys in the teens and the 20s and undrafted guys that have become real dudes. So, you know, would it be great to get a Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper? Yes. Is it still possible? Absolutely. Maybe people sour on Kasparis and I get my dark horse. Could be. Or maybe we're looking at Nolan Traore or somebody like that, and we got to make it work. And we'll do that analysis when it comes. Let's talk about the topic that's been already beaten into the ground on every show. We're bringing you the hard-hitting, early news, timely feedback, the Zion suspension. So before the 2 games we discuss, there's a flight out to Philadelphia to play against the Joel Embiid-less 76ers, the ghost of Paul George 76ers. And Zion is late for the flight. And we find out there is a 1-game suspension for Zion Williamson, that he will miss the Philadelphia 76ers game. And it looked like a game that was winnable was being made less winnable. And then CJ McCollum did the thing that he keeps doing where he scores 35 or more.
Yeah, and they win. Give me 38 of those.
Yeah. He just reminds people he's not dead, despite all the rumor that he's in the dirt. That man is still dicing the paint to pieces and getting to that glass, whether you like it or not. But the reaction, we got an assortment of reaction on the suspension. We'll talk about the Philly game and we can talk about CJ. We got an assortment of reaction to the suspension. Outside of our market, we got they got to trade Zion now. Now he's got to go.
Why?
From within our market, we got this is all very serious and he can't be doing this stuff. You know, this is a great move because this is very serious and he should not have missed that plane and this is uncalled for. So we got some hand wringing, and then we got some sensible takes, which is more where I fall. That look, guys, there's been a lot of stuff happening since Zion's been here. This is not all that high up there on the hierarchy of things that has occurred since Zion Williamson's been in New Orleans. Am I glad to see that we are putting some rules in place? Sure. Does this do anything for me in a vacuum? Not yet, because for me, it's like, are they going to continue to dole out punishments for the transgressions of professionalism? So if they keep this up, and this is now the standard, better late than never. But this didn't like seismically change anything for me. I am curious, sir, how do you perceive this? Should we have been like offended as fans that he was late for a plane, or is that like pretty common among star athletes in the NBA? Where do you fall in all this with the 1-game suspension? And do you think this has now changed the relationship of Zion and the Pelicans?
No, I just think he missed the plane after coming back, and they had to do something about it because, buddy, we just got you back. You can't miss the whole plane. I've seen guys be late to the plane. I've seen the plane be held up. I've seen the plane not be held up. It can get pretty easy. Like I've seen people cut it real close, depending on if you have practice or not, because you got to drive out to wherever the flight is and get things going. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's good that they just said, hey, this is what you did. This is the reason we're not doing that anymore. But I don't really read into this massive thing like, oh, it's massive unprofessionalism, et cetera, et cetera.
So you don't have any time necessarily for the Shannon Sharp drive-through fast food old takes that were getting torched out there on ESPN yesterday.
No, I have no time for that. What they said he was at Wendy's. They got Sintel.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I mean, look, we everybody around our sphere can only tell you so much. Like Steve will tell you on all the products he is featured on. We are not about that stuff, and we are watching the games, and we are watching these guys play for years, and we know their whole history. Anybody in New Orleans, like if you don't know Zion by now, and you don't know where he's at, like it's the story of the team for the last 6 years is the ups and downs of him. And, you know, former co-host of this show, Christian Clark, was the guy that documented the majority of it and got all of like the dirty secrets onto paper and into print. There have been struggles for a very, very long time. There has always been a question of, well, you never held him accountable in the past. Will you ever start? That is a question. It is a conundrum. If you let a star athlete come into town and kind of do whatever he wants, and you get like mad about it, you might have meetings with him about like, okay, this has to stop. But when it's this, it's kind of all over the place, and you never really punish him for anything. You really only hold him out when injury is going to potentially occur. Like he had health restrictions. He was not getting suspended for little transgressions here and there. That is not something we have done consistently. So if you've let him get away with murder a little bit, you know, when do you start to hold him accountable? So that is the entire question for me is, do you continue to? Is this the beginning of a new standard? If so, great. Better late than never. All about it. Sure. I feel like based on how it was released, the fact that they released a statement with David Griffin and Zion had a quote in that statement that said he was accepting the punishment. And then he talked to media and said, you know, this is on me. I've got to. Normally it's not so cohesive and it's a little bit tit for tat. In this case, like it looked like they sat down and said, hey, we got to put you down for a game. You got to be cool with it because this stuff has to stop. Like we have to move forward from this. You need to move forward from this so that you're not getting nailed in the public. So like, let's just do this. You're going to sit down, and in the future, this stuff happens. We're going to sit you down again. That's the new standard. That's where we are.
But I think the biggest thing to me was, one, you know, they said it was not an isolated incident. Two, they waited for him. And so I've been a part of some flight parties that wait for someone to a certain amount of time. You're holding everyone up. You're holding the flight plan, and everyone on the team, like everyone is waiting on this one person. And so, yeah, you got to take off, and hey, man, we're not going to wait for you forever. So I thought that was the biggest part to me. Like, we tried.
Yeah, I would say, and I've hinted at it on here before. Zion has missed a plane before. Like this is not. I mean, it was while he wasn't playing, but like there's been missed planes. There have been days in a row of no communication that has happened, and that's been pretty consistent over the years. That like there are these little disappearances. It sounds like there is less of it now that Dejounte Murray's involved. Like he's got a little bit of an accountability buddy here. And I'm just looking at that. I'm looking at how he's talking about how often he talks to Dejounte. It sounds like he's kind of staying on top of him. He told us in the offseason when we added him to the team that he was going to do that. So, much ado about nothing. But also Shannon Sharp, he looks incredible and is probably in the best shape he's been in since he's been in the NBA. So like we can stop talking about Wendy's. We can bring that back up if it manifests itself again, but that's not what's currently happening. And this is just like that's the people who don't have jobs in the middle of the day or that aren't in offices in the middle of the day. That's who that's designed for. And that's what they put out there on the television, and they're dying like that. Those networks are not what they used to be. So I think the more that happens, the more they got to do the hot takey stuff. All right. And then the other thing too is like I just think about like Anthony Edwards been fined a lot over the last couple of years for like a lot of different things. Some of it's been lateness, some of it's been like verbally abusing refs recently, things like that. So like, young guy. Zion's probably a little stunted in how much basketball he hasn't played. It's been 6 years, but it's probably been more like 3 in terms of games played. So you think about that. I think about the Matt Sullivan reporting around the Kyrie, Kevin Durant Nets. And there's a lot in that book about things that happened with planes and stuff like that. Like the plane leaves when we say it leaves and everybody just having to tolerate that. So like, this is not like a cardinal sin. All right. So we have about half the season left. The deadline is about 3 weeks away. Brandon Ingram, we haven't talked about him in ages. No clue what he's up to. He's out there. He's like on the court doing stuff with him and being like a dummy in drills and stuff and like throwing up a hand for some drills. What do we think? What are we looking for in the next 3 weeks? Should we just expect that anybody that has like a slight injury plus just Zion on back-to-backs just isn't playing? Is there any priority at the deadline for you? Or do you just keep playing this out? Get your way to the end of the season, keep running the offense, keep running your stuff, find out more, expand the games of the people that need to be expanded, fit guys in.
I'm a basketball guy. So yes, I would just say get everyone back, get everyone into a point. If there's a trade for Brandon, that's fine. But like, enjoy the Trey Murphy process, enjoy some of the games you're getting, enjoy what Zion brings, enjoy Dejounte. I wouldn't. What's it gonna do for you this year? Is the question I would ask people. How much is it going to change this year? Is it going to make you that much better for next year?
My only question on the Brandon Ingram stuff would be, say he reintroduces himself into the team.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to Trey Murphy when that happens? Because in the past, that has meant that 22 usage for Trey is more like 16. And that shot clock average on plays, instead of it being 13 seconds before a play starts, it's 16. Like there's some things that come with Brandon specifically that I have seen be an impediment to ball for a lot of guys, and guys that right now are expanding and are playing well. So I do worry. Like I do think there's an addition by subtraction thing with him specifically. And I just think this is like a lingering issue from the summer where they knew they didn't want this to be what it looked like with Brandon. And they gambled on it because he and they didn't like the offers. And here we are. And now he's got to come back. I don't know what happens if he comes back, if he's still here, if the thing you doomed me with at the end of an episode a few weeks ago, Brandon Ingram's still here. I'm scared.
Why are you scared? You watch Trey Murphy do driving kick with Brandon Boston. You're not excited about him doing that with Brandon Ingram?
Not at all. Brandon Boston is like when you know your usage is supposed to be low and your touch rate's supposed to be low and you're supposed to make a decision and that's your whole life, which is Brandon Boston. I can deal with it being that guy when that guy's in a small role. He's rolling his eyes. He's rolling his eyes at me. He's rolling his eyes. Okay, Steve is a ball purist. He's a respecter. He's a respecter of Brandon Ingram in a way that I'm losing a little bit right now. I'm losing my respect. I still think he's a great player. I just think he's such a specific player. Brandon Boston is a mini Ingram.
If
He
you have
is.
if you have 15 minutes of love for Trey Murphy, I don't think Brandon Ingram takes that away. This might be my illness and the medicine wearing off. I don't think that Trey Murphy gets bothered by that much by Brandon Ingram. Not this version.
You know what? You're teeing something up here. I may end up having to throw somebody your direction if we see this transpire. This may need to turn into a 3-way conversation where I bring our guy Schmidt Dua on here, and y'all can just duke it out over what's happening to Trey with BI present. Y'all can just have a little rap, and I'll just referee and throw flags. Because I know a lot of people that are concerned about, and I'm one of them. I'm concerned about what it looks like when he comes back. Then again, if he stays, tank protected, maybe.
I'm just letting you know if he comes back and he plays well, I'm giving everyone hell.
Hey, we could always bring, when in doubt, we could bring Jason Maples instead, the BI apologist. I got a guy for everything. We can get Jason Maples on here to talk about BI appreciation. We could do the BI celebration episode, and everybody can just come after me. He's rolling his eyes. I'm so sorry. Look, this is a thing not to do with Steve. Is to knock anybody down that's good at basketball. And I get it.
I'm just sick. Just grumpy.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll blame the illness. That's all we got for you. Any parting thoughts, Steve? Anything to go out on? Any gags?
No.
All right. I burned it all down by talking about needing to get Brandon Ingram out of here because it's going to suffocate Trey Murphy. Do I actually believe that? Kinda. All right. Thank y'all. Thank everybody for listening. Thank you for joining us again. We're going to keep coming at you every week. Like, rate, subscribe. Specifically, subscribe. Check out the YouTube. We're going to have stuff is still changing. We're still changing stuff. I'm going to have some more sound effects and stuff. We didn't do that at this episode. We're going to have some more production stuff. We're going to get it tighter, getting to know Steve a little bit better, figure out what buttons to push on Steve. We're getting there. He looks like he has something to say.
No.
And on that, we're out. We'll talk to you next time.